Good evening, everybody. Getting to be a fall evening. Okay. We had a good session. At least I'm getting good feedback from the session that we did this weekend, which was kind of the step one for the ultimate candlestick training setup. And that's definitely analyzing what the market probabilities are based upon our signals, where we are with stochastics, where we are at support and resistance levels, and where we are at the T-line. So this is where we kind of observe which way the market is obviously going. Kind of a little bit of doubt right here, but that doubt was alleviated when they gapped it up through the T-line. This is going to be great. Babysitting the dog. I can't even yell at him because he's deaf, but he's guarding the back door. All the wild animals. And then today we had further confirmation that the 50 was not going to act as resistance. A little bit more compelling on the NASDAQ because of the gap up and the gap up again, breaking this downtrend. So got to assume the uptrend is in progress, which does not cancel out watching to see if they do some profit taking, see if the 50 is going to act as support, see if there's J-hook patterns. So at least now we know we want to be analyzing things in the positive mode. And the S&P, same scenario. I think the strongest one, or the most compelling one today, was the transportation index, which did a best friend gap up and then continued even higher today. So that's a good sign that the bullish sentiment is definitely back in this market. Now, how long will that last is the next analysis, which is going to be a function of if they're reporting the inflation numbers this week. I'll watch to see what the reaction is to them. All right, so what we've been trying to convey, kind of starting to convey, is that if you're trying to put all your stars in alignment, what are all the factors that we want to use to take advantage of being in strong trades? One, obviously, which way is the market going? Two, knowing which are the strongest signals and patterns. And three, start using everything else, like are these prices moving through resistance levels like the 50-day moving average, the 200, the T-line, anything that we can add to that analysis. And so I was thinking the other night that the setup for the perfect trades need to have everything in order, in alignment. And I always had used the reference a good while back of the movie Moneyball, where they were trying to get all the players that fit into the system that had the highest degree of probabilities that they were going to get on base. And that system wasn't complete, even though they had Pena, who was a superstar on first base. And they still weren't winning. And so even though they got rid of a superstar, brought somebody in that improved the statistics, once they did that, and they went to win, what was it, 21 games in a row and for the division. So that's a long explanation to say that once we know which way the markets are going, our next step is knowing the top-ranked signals and patterns. First of all, we want to know what the signals tell us, and we want to know what the patterns tell us. Then we want to know which combinations of those signals and patterns give us the highest probability of a strong price move. So it was easy to identify on task because you can see what was happening in this bottoming action. Just a bunch of series of dojis. That's one of your clues to start watching for a change of investor sentiment because there's lots of indecision down here. And then we know the best friend signal is one of your strongest indicators that there's been a very strong change of investor sentiment. So you've got the signals, you've got patterns, you can observe the obvious. Where did Carvana bottom out? Morningstar signal, right smack dab on the 50. High probability if they started trading positive, they were going positive on this one. How far will it go? No idea. We just hold a high probability trade setup until you see a sell signal. That was Carvana. DraftKings, which was a short until it showed a Morningstar signal right here at the 50. So this is kind of your picture-perfect example of where the candlestick signals tell us there's been a change of investor sentiment. Little kicker signal off the 50. Goes right to the 200. Does an EV star signal. Right to the 50. Does a Morningstar signal. So what's the assumption that everybody is probably watching? By heading for the 200, and then you see what type of signals occur at that level. Picking out the sectors. Our pick on SGML, because we could see there was an uptrend. So we want to see what it does in the next couple of days. Stochastic should be up. Just kind of watch it and put a sell stop at a logical place that tells us it shouldn't be turning around the overall trend. And so here was a good example today of when somebody does an upgrade or a downgrade. That's just a temporary, I think the right word is aberration of price movement, because all that's happening is everybody that follows whoever downgraded it selling off their stock, and once all that selling is over with, the trend will continue the way it should be. So that is another illustration of why the T-line is a very important factor, because prices are going to move up and down during a trend, even during a day. But the most important factor is if it closes above the T-line, you still have to assume the uptrend is in progress. We recommended Fling because of the island reversal. A little bullish left-right combo right off the 50, and they gap it back up. That's one of your strongest reversal signals. Now, even if you didn't close it or enter the trade today, still got that trade set up. Is this a repeat of Saturday session? Not that I know of. It's kind of using using the information that everybody should have started getting acclimated to on Saturday to decide first step is which way is this market going? Is it overbought? If it's oversold? If it's still in an uptrend, what do we want to be looking for? The strongest upside trades. Starting to see the oil stocks coming back. And again, you can see the pattern. And so how do we confirm that this is a good pattern setup and that this just isn't a renegade price move in the specific stock? You look at all the other ones in that sector. Apache, EOG, another little island reversal gap up. So if we identify the fact that that whole sector is being bought, that's just pretty much, again, putting the stars in alignment that that whole sector is being bought. Find the best ones. This is, yeah, all the evening sessions, Raja, are recorded. Okay, so, oh, here's another oil. So what's the implication? This one, still got a good uptrend in progress. All right, so some of the other ones that we own because of these type of patterns. Manu, you just stay long on this one. This one looks kind of what we call the stepstone move. Move up, step, move up, step, move up, step. But these steps kind of imply that there's not exuberance coming into this trend. It's still a good, strong, steady trend. AGIO, your best friend breakthrough. Scary day. This is why you always wait to see whether they're going to close above or below the T-line. That's AGIO. And one that looks, I think this looks like it. Why did I show this? Wasn't based on AGIO. Oh, it should have been based upon Rivian. Here, Doji's sitting right here on the 50, and then there's your best friend. Now I think this is why. Point this one out. There's your series of dojis, kind of a left-right combo. That cradle pattern heading back up. Good probability that trade's going in the right direction. CSPG, CSGP, your best friend gap up, your kicker gap up, best friend gap up. What's our expectation? 45 degree. QuantumScape, we always keep an eye on this one because of the prospects that if this ever gets close to having their lithium solid batteries finished, that could be $100, $200, $300 stock. And it would be essentially changing the whole world energy business. So where would you buy it? Well, there's a kind of a double bottom, bullish engulfing. You could be buying here. Again, more for the longer term trade setup. GSL is one that you look at and say, all right, we've had this little scoop pattern breakout. Good. And what was the impetus of getting into this one? First of all, that best friend warning star type signal. Wouldn't have bought it here, wouldn't have bought it here, wouldn't have bought it here, wouldn't have bought it here. If I had bought it, I was out here, but then get ready to buy it back here because of the, remember, this is a morning star signal, but look at the little flat handle. What do we identify that with as far as a pattern? A little scoop pattern. And what do we expect coming out of a scoop pattern? That slingshot effect to the upside. So this is your message. This one you can still be buying, especially on bullish candles, expecting a 45-degree off of here. Okay, that was all the longs. The ones that we recommended on going short was Fizz. It was a dumpling top, and then they were just cratering it. So this one, if you shorted it, you stay short. Even though you're in the oversold area, there's a good possibility that they pulled the plug on this one. There could still be a lot of downside in this, especially if they break this level. All right, the biggies. Apple. Another one where you can pretty much observe the obvious. Where did they start buying this? Right here at the 50. The bullish signals gap up through the 50 and the T-line and the 34 and the 200. What's that illustrate? Especially coming out of the oversold area. Lots of bullish strength and pretty much breaking this downtrend. So where would we expect our next target to be? Wants to see whether they're going to be, that has enough strength to climb right back up to this level. Amazon, nothing magical here. Failed right at the 200, supported right at the 50. Where would you think the next target's going to be? Right here. Might not be a big percentage move, but it's a high probability move. So to maximize the returns on this one, maybe you do a spread right in here. And Tesla, same scenario. Where did it bottom out? Right smack dab off the 50. Morning star signal. And obviously not resisting at the 200. So where would you suspect your next resistance level to be? Right there. So if it got up here, what do we do when it gets there? Let's see what type of formation. If it does a little shooting star or a doji or a bearish signal, take profits and then wait for it to come back up through that level. Let's see. Netflix was another of the biggies, but it's not quite as compelling. A slow kind of fry pan bottom setup. And then NVIDIA has not been able to get back up through the T-line. If you're trading this, when would be your entry? Well, if they open this positive tomorrow, doing a doji sandwich breakout, you'd be buying this with what would be your next expected target. Right there to fill the gap. At least it would be putting you in a positive direction based upon kind of a left-right combo, bullish engulfing, gap up, and then a doji sandwich. Just all pieces of signals and patterns that are telling you the bulls are definitely in control. Okay, let me take a gander here. Oh, that's the one I goofed up on. I had a nice segue right into, when you see them bottom out at levels that everybody's observing. This one, you can see where they bottomed it out right here at the 50. The left-right combo. Now you've got the doji sandwich. What's the implication on this one? Next target. So the patterns that you want to identify are the ones that have high probability expected results, like the McMuffin, Morningstar signal. That alone is a 12 major signal reversal signals. Doji sandwich, that has implications that you're going higher. So when you add those two together, that's kind of a double whammy that you're in a positive trade. So you got your Morningstar Doji sandwich or your McMuffin. Same situation right here. Kind of your Morningstar signal, almost, I guess you could consider that Morningstar signal, followed by a doji sandwich above the T line through the 50, breaking out through this level. Extremely high probability you're now in an uptrend. Fuel cell. There's your Morningstar signal. There's your indecisive trading. If this opens positive tomorrow, setting you up for a McMuffin. At least you can kind of suspect this day right here is going to be about the same magnitude as this day right here. And where is this all occurring? Right there at the 50-day moving average. And that's why I keep repeating. A lot of people aren't watching to see what candlestick signals are being created because there isn't enough people in the world that are still using candlesticks. But everybody is watching to see what's happening at the 50-day moving average. We just have a little bit better confirmation that that's where the buying is occurring. This one is the battery, prior battery. Where's it going? It's in your uptrend. Anytime you start seeing buy signals, closes back up above the T line, it gives you that much more credence that the bulls are still in control. Expect more upside. And Groupon. I'm hoping by now everybody's visually recognizing there's your fry pan bottom. And what does that trajectory tell us? Bearish, bearish, flat, flat, bullish, bullish. Let's get ready to start buying on the bullish side. Look at your fry pan bottom, your bobble breakout, your little best friend signal. What's this imply? At least you're coming back up into this area and then possibly up into this area. Looks like a walk. Okay. Oh, let's see. That was there's that one. All right. This ELD. There's your McMuffin type pattern. There's your McMuffin type pattern right off the 34. So what's our anticipation on this J-hook pattern? Wave 1, wave 2, wave 3. Wave 1, wave 2, wave 3. Morningstar signal. Remember, the difference between a Morningstar and a cradle is just kind of semantics. See a big down candle one or two indecisive days and the third candle closing more than halfway up, that's a morning star. If you have a third indecisive day in that big candle, now you put it in the classification of a cradle pattern. But again, it doesn't matter what you call it. As long as you can see what's happening here, that you've got that cradle or morning star type signal, that's a pretty good indication you've got a strong reversal signal. Let's see. Now they're J-hook pattern. Wave 1, wave 2, bullish, Harami, doji sandwich, gap up. If this opens positive, what do you got going on? A doji sandwich breakout, definitely in wave 3. And okay, so back to ASAN. Series of dojis, best friend gap up, now you have a doji sandwich. So if you hadn't bought it here or hadn't bought it here, now you wouldn't have bought it here because that was the day that the signal was being created. So if you didn't see it that day, that night when you were doing your scan, you say, oops, there's the best friend signal. I better watch to see what it does the next day. So if you didn't buy it in this day, now what do you have going on? If they open up positive, got a doji sandwich. And were we in the overbought area? Definitely not. So this allows you to identify the strong signals setting up based again on human nature that will reoccur time after time. So there's your best friend signal. So what will we, if you start getting acclimated to this type of trade, what do you look for tomorrow? Positive open, probably going to take you higher. Same scenario right here. Best friend signal. Moved up through the T-line. If this opens positive tomorrow, what's it telling you? We're going through the 50. It's probably a strong up move. Now, why would you look at something that's already moved up big percentage? Because that move up a big percentage says something drastic has changed in the investor sentiment of this trade. So it's not going to be a slow moving trade. Something's popped this, and there's a whole new investor sentiment. All we need to know is if we can read that signal and know what that sentiment is telling us, now you're more apt to be in a trade that's going to produce a high probability, high profit situation. GGR, same scenario. ANVS. So that's what you kind of expect when you see these pop-ups. They not kind of expect, but you got much more probabilities that if this is telling you something new is happening, then you can just follow on the next day how they open it, and then what does your 10-minute chart tell you? Where did they open this? Down here. And what did your 10-minute chart tell you? Times it looked a little bit iffy, but pretty much stayed positive all day long. So sell signal to close below the 10-minute T-line. What's that indicating? Not a whole heck of a lot. Just telling you there's some profit taking at the end of the day. What's that going to do to your candle. You're still up a pretty strong candle. If you identify a commodity that usually controls the price of a sector, like silver, up pretty strong. Now you can say, well, let's take a look at the silver stocks. Whoop, they're doing kind of good bottoming action. High probabilities that they're heading higher. So that's another function of putting all the stars in alignment, that you're just finding things that are confirming each other. The market heading in a bullish direction, the underlying commodity of a sector moving in the right direction, and then finding the stocks in that sector that are also showing the strongest signals. And there's your J-hook pattern. Why is that J-hook pattern relevant? Because they gapped it up through this level, making this a strong start into wave 3. All right, and the kicker signal. So this goes back to the factor that if you know what the strongest signals are, and I always reiterate that if you study all the signals and patterns and you're thinking, man, this is a lot to digest all at one time, I always suggest pick out 3 or 4 and learn them extremely well. And with 3 or 4 signals and patterns, you're always going to have more trades than you can handle. The difference will be the trades that you know very well, now you're not at the whim of everybody's market suggestions or prognoses or telling you to stay away from a certain stock or they're upgrading or downgrading. You're making all your decisions based upon what the chart is actually telling you to do. Oh, that's not very nice. There's your little fry pan bottom. So just identifying and notice all the series of dojis, a series of dojis. Notice that you can at least now project there's a pattern heading in the right direction. If I'm buying it, I can at least make a calculation of how long I want to stay in it based upon the T-line, where our targets might be, maybe the gap area. So at least now you are analyzing what a chart should be doing because of the pattern and where you should be back out of the trade. So you don't have to have that fear of entering a trade because you're thinking, well, what if? At least now you can calculate things on what is the probability of that chart doing a price move that we expect. Another Morningstar signal on NEXA. And notice what happened here. If you happen to have been buying this one, what's a good trading system or strategy? Notice as soon as they hit the 50, and they were stretching it to get up there, what do? You just go to your 10-minute chart, say, oops, it's starting to sell off. Is it going to come all the way back here? I don't know. So I flip to my 5-minute chart. Say, whoops, the 5-minute chart's here. If it trades lower, let me close it out. At least I'm closing out a little bit faster. Raj, now on a doji sandwich, you recognize it as being a setup. And that setup is if we expect a doji sandwich, there's our bullish candle followed by a doji. So we may not have been buying on this day because we're still below the T line. And then when it came back and did a doji, we've got the doji rule that says the price is usually going to move in the direction of how they open after a doji. So when this opened positive and started trading positive, we already knew what type of signal was producing, a doji sandwich, which meant this candle right here and this candle right here were likely to be the same. And it was telling us the T-line was not acting as a resistance anymore. That becomes an extremely high probability trade setup. Argo, your slow fry pan bottom or rounding bottom doji sandwich. What can you expect from this? A lot more upside, at least coming up to the 50. And app. There's your fry pan bottom. There's your setup. If this opens positive tomorrow, what can you put this into the classification of? A doji sandwich coming out of this pattern. So whether you're buying for a swing trade or buying even for a day trade, at least you're now easily identifying which signals are setting up for that high probability trade setup. So on something like this, this is a very high probability alert. Look at your bearish candle. Opens here, closes here. The next day, they open up above the previous day's open. In this case, they did a doji. Why does this alert you to a strong day trade situation? Because they've already gapped it up. Now we have the doji rule that if it opens positive the next day, we're buying immediately because we know the doji rule says it's probably going to trade positive. You know we got a high probability of another up day, which could be fairly substantial. A doji sitting right here on the 200-day moving average. So again, observe the obvious. Notice your hammer, your doji, your kind of your left-right combo, bullish confirmation, doji. Opens lower, not good. However, what would tell us the bulls are still in control? Started trading positive and came back up through this level because what color would this candle be? Green candle telling you the bulls are still there. Look for that doji sandwich type setup, especially right on a level that everybody else is watching. Forge, doji. This opens positive tomorrow. Pretty strong buy, especially after your inverted hammer. And what is the ultimate inverted hammer? Gravestone doji. What's the doji rule? It's going to move in the direction of how they open after a doji. What's your inverted hammer rule? That if it opens positive, you've probably got a 95% probability or greater that it's going to be trading positive. MSCI. Why do I have that? Oh, did they report something after hours? They did. So this becomes a good short if they open this lower, because where did they sell off? Right where everybody else is watching. IPI. Where did they start selling? Obvious sell signals up here. Then they started buying, but what did this day do? Oh, they negated all this. Now what do you got going on? Potential of a bearish J-hook. And if it trades lower, what else is it telling us? It's not holding this level anymore. You might have strong downside. That's where you can recognize that they're pulling the plug. Moss, well, that's almost the same exact chart. Another one that if this opened lower tomorrow, what's it producing? First of all, telling you this level is not supporting. Got a bearish J-hook pattern. Where's your next target? Wave 1, wave 3, bring you down into this range. There's your, what they call the meeting line. Open here, closes here. Gaps up, and comes right back to right about where it opened, and then sells off. That's definitely a strong sell signal. When we recommended IPTC today to go short because of that bearish best friend on the same parameter, that if they traded this one lower, what would this be telling us? That the 50 is not acting as support. They're taking it down to the next level. Well, they didn't do very well on the short side. However, what do we still have as our signal? This bearish best friend. And what do we assume from bearish best friend? There's a lot of downside pressure. So if didn't get into it today, that was probably also the function of analyzing that the market itself was trading positive, and this one wasn't selling off with any great resiliency. That was probably a good indication today was not a good day to be shorting this one. However, they come back down through this level. That's telling you that force is still in progress. They're not holding the 50. That becomes a much better entry point to get into that short trade. All right, so right now the Dow futures are just about flat. So now we kick into all our trend analysis expectations. We know we're in an uptrend. We know we just broke through a resistance level, the 50 that everybody's watching. We know our stochastics are still heading up. Expecting more upside, but not without the possibility they come back and test the resistance level to see if it's going to act as support. At least this way we know if they started backing off and there was something we were ready to buy, that maybe this is a consolidation day. We don't want to be doing any buying on that day. Once it gets back here and they show that they're heading back up, that's pretty good evidence that they're not going to be closing back below the 50, and then you can start buying aggressively again. Okay, I think that's about all I've got for tonight. Are there any general questions on candlestick analysis? All right, now, with a move like IDYA, if it opens lower, you hold off buying. If it opens higher, and you buy, but then it drops below its open, it's best to close out. Yes. So you're trading this first of all, you've got to obviously expect that if you're trading this, you're trading a flyer. So now you want to make a lot more analysis of what it's doing intraday. So if this opens positive and the market's not selling off, just give it maybe 5 seconds, not 5 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 45 seconds. And if they're still buying, my 10-minute chart, say, starts looking like, say this is the open tomorrow, starts looking like this, yeah, I'm going to go after it. Because that's telling me they haven't quit buying from the previous day. Okay. On the other hand, if it opens lower and starts trading lower, yeah, I'm not going to go after it. Even though I think it's in an uptrend, I'm going to wait to see if the selling stops and starts back up. So that's where the 10-minute chart becomes much more informational, is once a price opens, it open up. Sometimes you see them open up and immediately start selling off. What's that tell us? Well, they're not buying right now. At that point, where is a good buy or a good entry? If they pull back and then turn around and come back up through the open, that means they're buying. That's where you can get into it. If they come all the way back down to a level that you can recognize, in this case the 34 or anything that was close, and they hit there and seem like they're bouncing up, you go to your 10-minute chart again and see what's the 10-minute chart looking like. Is it coming back up through the 10-minute T-line? Wasn't Moss in an oversold area? Yes, but what's the pattern setting up? It's not quite in the oversold area. It came up, it didn't quite get in it, so it's not quite in the oversold area, so it's not a deterrent. Let the pattern tell you what's happening. Do patterns change much when there is new market data? For instance, CPI report. Is that likely to impact a strong pattern much? The patterns have less reaction to things. And that's because a pattern is usually a buildup of investor sentiment. So if something comes in and changes the whole market sentiment, it usually takes a little bit longer to impact a pattern. So that's another benefit of a pattern, is that even if the market changes direction, a pattern may still produce that same trajectory because of it's not just one reversal signal, it's a buildup of investor sentiment that created that pattern. Let me go to a fry pan. I can't remember which ones. But if I'm looking at a fry pan bottom, and it's trading up, and then all of a sudden an announcement comes out that changes the whole market direction, a pattern is usually much slower to react to that information. ID, oops. Except we're not trading that anymore. That told us we got down here for whatever that news was. And then you can see what happened after that. That's where they kind of settled. So this has nothing to do with this right here. This is telling you there's strong bullish sentiment. This has nothing to do with that information. Now, it does have a little bit of information that if they took this up again tomorrow pretty strong, that now becomes what they call a column reversal. There's the column, there's the column, and that usually implies We're in a strong uptrend from there. Now, I point that out because it's just, there's a lot of, I want to say, additional information in candlestick analysis that you can learn. But as I say, the important factors are learning a few extremely well, so that when you see something going on where there's a pattern that you recognize or you're trading or you've become an expert at least you know what it should be doing, what it shouldn't be doing, how long or when to get in it, how long to stay in it. You've got everything now set instead of being influenced by everything else out there in the investment world. Okay, I guess with that, Jim, go ahead and do the double line. And in 3.6 seconds, do the next double line. Oh, Momo, magic. I mean, that's a good chart. Kind of a wedge breakout. You can be buying that one. Lumber liquidators. You could buy this one with the expectation that you're at least now heading back up into the 50 range. And ACCD, there's your observe the obvious. Where did they start buying? Right here on the 50. Doji sandwich. Not real conclusive right in here. No strong signals. But now your doji sandwich makes it more compelling. Probably heading up here, which would coincide with hitting the 200-day moving average. Bark. That appears to signal that. Why does Bark not come up here? I don't know. Did I type it right? I did. Sometimes they just don't come up on different servers. Yes, the point of change of investor sentiment was right here. You're in an uptrend, and they're gapping down near the previous day's open. In this case, it was below the previous day's open where they closed it, and below the T line. That little piece of information said the bullish sentiment is gone. You can should be out of that trade. You could be going short on this one. Labu, not anything wildly exciting, but again, you've got the additional factor that it came right back to the 50 and bounced back up. That's telling you they're not bringing it back down through the 50. Freeport, just stay long. Expectation with these little gap ups is at least they're coming up to the top of the channel. AG, one of the gold stocks or the silver stocks, you could still be buying this one on positive trading. This is the gold fund, which is trading positive. This is gold itself. Whoops, it's trading down a little bit after hours. It was silver that had the bigger price move today. HYG has been going up. I just watched to see. So using this as an indicator, telling you they're buying the corporate bonds, which is another bullish sign as far as the overall market trend, that if they like the high-risk bonds, that means they're not afraid of the stock prices. This one you can stay short, especially if they break this level. You might have your wave 3 to the downside, which would indicate probably a good bullish trend for a while in the market. This one you can buy, obviously, if it breaks up through tops here. Kind of your McMuffin with a Morningstar signal, kind of a double doji sandwich. And Schnitzer, that's a good looking chart. Just watch to see what happens at this level. U.S. Steel, whoops, it failed. And Steel Dynamics, oops, it failed. So Schnitzer, stay long on this one. Lucid, we did. That one's got a good morning or a McMuffin. You can buy this one on positive trading. Expectation is the 50. Blink. That's another McMuffin. Morningstar doji sandwich. That one you can still be buying, which means ChargePoint also is following suit. Yes, Morningstar signal, good uptrend at this point. And notice where the Morningstar signal occurred, right on a level everybody else was watching. PL, Mark, nothing yet. If I was going to go long on this one, first of all, it'd have to open positive, looking for that kind of doji sandwich, and then definitely would want to see it break out through this level, which it seems having a little bit of trouble. So it's in an uptrend. You just need a little bit more bullish confirmation. Apple, we actually did some bullish spreads in the options room today. There's your reversal. There's your gap up through the moving averages. Pretty much breaking out through this downtrend. You could still be buying this one. DNA, there's your doji sandwich. Almost not quite a McMuffin, but the doji sandwich was a confirmation the bulls were taking control. And Gould, another one you could be buying, but I wouldn't be buying until it comes back up through the day's open. Or if they gap this one up and starts trading positive, giving you a trend kicker signal, that's when you definitely want to be going after it. Yeah, your task is still in an uptrend. Expecting your fry pan bottom with your best friend to stay long until you see a sell signal. Advanced Micro didn't have real good chart activity today. It came back up going into the close. So you can still be buying this if it comes back up through yesterday's or was it Friday's close. I'll tell you that the consolidation at the key line area is over. Sava, stay long. I would use today's low as your stop. It comes back down through there, not quite a hanging man, but it would pretty much tell you they've stopped buying here. So you definitely want to see this open and trade positive from here. PLTR, bottoming action, doji sandwich, not quite a doji sandwich, but that gap up tells you there was a lot of strength coming back into the trend. And Clovis, that's another one where you watch to see how they open this one tomorrow, and you pretty much want to be buying on strength. Cardiff, fry pan bottom, breakout with a doji sandwich, you could be buying that one. That's a strong chart. BBIO, you could be buying this one. But I'd be very careful once it gets to the 200. Watch to see what it does at that level. Yeah, Ralph, that's a kind of a nice little slow curve breakout with your doji gap up. No problem with that one. We did I think we did a September 23rd, 65.70 for 2 weeks out, where I think it was $1.39, with the idea that if it comes back up to this level over the next 2 weeks or higher, your $1.39 is now going to $5. You say what? Yes, we did that today. LPL, ordered after hours. Okay, so after hours, yep, there's a big pop. Is our pattern for PBA? Not really. That's just the gap ups. Hey, there's a lot of strength coming back into it. Mullen, yes, we've been out of that one for a while. It's just nothing there. However, Mullen's one of those story stocks. It's one of those if they report something. I think they are working on, I know they've manufactured the car, but I think they're also working on one of the solid state lithium batteries. Link tested the T-line, yes. So that's an additional factor. When they come to the T-line and bounce back up, that's a strong indication they're not selling it off. Oh, which one would have the higher probabilities? I would probably go with Blink because it's just breaking out where this already is on its way. Oh, yeah, if anything gaps up tomorrow, it's a strong bullish indication. But that one's right after a doji sandwich right here at the 200. If it opened positive, you'd be confirming that signal. Okay, I guess that's about it. Want to see how this trades tomorrow? Obviously, we're in an uptrend. Oh, JB. AUEH had a good reversal. So would be buying this one on positive trading. Just make sure it can break out through this level. Now, this is the daily chart. It's delayed by 15 minutes. I don't use this one for actual trades other than futures or commodities. So that took you right to the resistance level. So now you wait to see how that one opens tomorrow. And Unisys, you could start buying this one if you like trading this one. No. Don't give a hoot about who's buying or selling. Remember, it was a couple weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago, they were telling or they reported that Warren Buffett was buying Occidental right in here. Doesn't mean a hill of beans. Now look where it is. Okay. All right. Guess that's it. We'll see everybody bright and early tomorrow morning in the chat room. We'll see you then.